and you're listening to Homeschool Unrefined, the podcast where we keep homeschool simple, real, and fun.
And this is Angela. You've got episode 116, No Report Cards Necessary, the Power of Self-Evaluation. We're going to get to that soon, but first we would just want to say hello to all of our listeners. Good to be back with you. Thank you for coming back. If you're new, welcome. We're so glad to have you. Special hello to our Patreon supporters. If you are interested in becoming a Patreon supporter and getting extra episodes and a community of people, you can go to patreon.com/homeschoolunrefined.
Yes, and we're always looking for ways to improve and give more content to our Patreon members who are so supportive of us. So there's always more. There's always more coming. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
This summer, we are asking everybody to share our podcast. Our goal by the end of the year is to get 10,000 followers on Instagram.
10K.
Because we want that swipe up.
We do.
So, and we're getting there. But actually, what really helps us grow the most is for you guys to share, for word of mouth. Yes. Some of you are doing that all the time and often. Thank you.
I know.
Thank you. Like every time we ask,
a
lot of people are returning and doing it. We appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for doing that. Yeah. We'd love to have you go ahead.
Maren. I was just going to say, I know you've talked about how you can share even just a podcast snippet now from like Overcast or some podcast apps now have like a way to just share either a snippet or even a whole episode. You could share that with your friends and then ask them to follow us on Instagram.
Or listen. Just tell them about the podcast, basically.
Totally.
That's the first step.
Step number 1. Yeah, exactly.
Tell them about the podcast.
Yes.
So you can do that via text or word of mouth, face to face, or on Instagram. We'd love that. So, and
also, if you aren't on Instagram, it's not a scary place to be. We love Instagram. It's fun. It's supportive. It's I don't know. It's not as involved, I think, as Facebook. You can be, you can be on it as much or as little as you want.
Yeah, I don't get lots of like the negative feelings I sometimes get from Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I love Facebook groups.
Mm-hmm.
But on my Facebook news feed, sometimes I feel like lethargic and down after scrolling through. And so this is not like that. This is, for me, a really positive place to be.
Right. So, there's lots of inspiration on Facebook, and you can connect with people you wouldn't normally connect with. And that's what I'm really thankful about for Instagram. And that's why we're there. That's why we spend the most of our social media time there. And we'd love to connect with you there too. We just really love to connect with people who, are listening to our podcast and who want to talk more about the things we're talking about.
Right. For sure. We've met so many great people, so many great friends on Instagram.
Definitely. Oh, and also, I'm traveling right now, starting a year of traveling with my family. If you want to find out and see what I'm doing today, you can follow me on Instagram and Homeschool Unrefined. So my Instagram handle is Unrefined Maren, and our Instagram handle is Homeschool Unrefined. I am going to be posting and storying, especially in both of those places during our trip. So get today's update right now.
Yep.
On
and if you want the personal stuff, like the real personal stuff, you should follow Maren. Individually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we thought we'd do a few updates about things we've talked about most recently or recommended most recently.
Mm-hmm.
Maren, you recommended, was it an LTW?
It was.
I think it was.
Yes, it was.
You recommended When They See Us on Netflix.
Yes.
And I watched it, and I need to talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
Has anybody watched it? I think you should, if you haven't.
Reach out to us and tell us what you think.
So this is a 4-part, I would call it, mini-series.
Is it 4 or 5?
4.
Okay.
4-part. Each part is about an hour and a half. So I feel like it's kind of like watching 4 movies.
Yes.
In a row.
It's an investment.
But it's a story that... So it's 5 hours long total.
Okay.
So it's basically like a 5-hour long movie, but it needs to be broken up. And it is about these 5 young boys
Mm-hmm.
in New York in 1989 who were accused of raping a woman in Central Park. And
Mm-hmm.
so they're known as the Central Park Five. They're all boys of color.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were all not guilty. So they didn't do it, but
Mm-hmm.
they were found guilty and spent years in prison. And
Yeah.
so it is about their story. Um, and I mean, I know you said this,
Mm-hmm.
but the storytelling and the acting was
Mm-hmm.
just incredible.
Yeah, it really
It
was.
was this was not this is actors playing these boys and then men as they grow older. Um and so it's not a documentary, but it is follows their story.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just so well done. Ava DuVernay is the director.
Yep. Yep.
She did an amazing job. I mean, I felt like I was watching art. And I know every movie is art, but this
Yeah.
was like
Yeah.
so intense. Such
Yeah.
intense
Yeah.
art. It was hard to watch, but I think it was really important to watch,
Yeah.
especially as a white person.
I know. And
Yeah.
like I've said before, I had to take a break in between each one because
Mm.
it was so heavy and I'm not into I do not like watching tough stuff like that. I just
Mhm.
don't. But I just needed to. I know I needed to, and it's the least I can do.
Oh yeah, I
It's,
know. Like
uh,
yeah,
I
me
get
being
to escape.
uncomfortable
Yeah,
watching it.
right.
Is
And I
minor.
I mean, I was thinking I get to escape. I get to turn this off whenever I want and go back to my
Mhm.
comfortable life. So, I mean, I kept watching it. I just fell in love with all of the boys too. I really
Mhm.
did.
know.
I just have my heart
know.
melted for all of them and their families.
Yep.
And did you see the documentary?
I
Did
have
you-
not seen the documentary, the Ken Burns documentary.
Yes.
Did you watch that?
Yes.
Okay, I need to
Yeah.
do that.
And it's definitely, I mean, you don't need to see the documentary to watch the show on Netflix.
Mhm.
But I have to say it made it much more contextual. I mean, it's interviews from the 5 men
Mm.
and just their real life, I mean, words coming out of their mouths telling exactly what happened.
Mhm.
And it made it even more real. And it
Mhm.
also, I don't know, it just made me think, wow, this was not just a movie. Like, this wasn't a movie. This was
Yeah.
this was real life. This really happened. And I don't know, I could just sense, I could feel the pain in their voices. I could
Yeah.
feel also like their goodwill. I mean, they were just, I know, I'm sure they're dealing with so much right now. After the aftermath of all of it, but and yet I could just sense their, I don't know who they are as people. They're just like great people.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I know they are maybe have some anger and stuff, but I only sensed them wanting to get the story out only.
Mm.
Like they
Mm.
wanted to get this story out. And
Yeah.
the processing through it, like a person who went to war or something,
Right.
who was like on, like we've watched a lot of videos of soldiers from D-Day because that's some of my kids are super interested in that. And it felt like that sort of intensity,
Yeah.
from these men. So,
I need to watch that Ken Burns documentary.
Mhm.
I did watch the Oprah interview. Did you watch that?
no.
Okay, so Oprah interviewed some of the actors.
Yes,
I
I
actually
need to see
only
that.
watched half of it. So
Oh,
I
wow.
don't know. I didn't see the whole thing, but
And is that
Yes.
on Netflix?
it's on Netflix.
Okay, I need to see that.
Yep.
The documentary is on Amazon Prime.
Oh, it's on Netflix too.
The documentary?
Yeah. Oh, the documentary. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. The documentary is on Amazon Prime.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. When They See Us is on Netflix. One thing that Oprah said that really hit me also in watching the miniseries When They See Us
Mhm.
was that it really showed how life after prison is not a piece of cake.
Yeah.
Like, and how difficult it is to get your life back.
Yeah.
They're all felons. They
Yeah.
were
Mm-hmm.
before they were exonerated. They were all
Mhm.
felons. So that means certain things about getting jobs.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to get a job.
Yeah.
And you have to report back to people, and you can't get in any trouble, and you can't be outside at certain times. And the way
Yes.
people look at you and treat you, and they're all sex offenders. They were
Right.
all registered sex offenders.
Right.
So they couldn't get certain jobs, you know?
Mhm.
So it was just, it showed how like getting out of prison is just like one step.
Right.
It's not easy after that.
The prison system in America is not like rehabilitating. It doesn't make, it doesn't help you become like better or ready for the world, or, it doesn't prepare any person to like do better, or,
Yeah.
it's actually quite a detriment.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
So that's tough. Tough to hear, tough to see.
Yeah,
but
it was just,
important.
but also so necessary.
Mhm.
I mean, Jeremy and I were watching it, and he's like, "This is so hard to watch," and I said, "Yeah, but we have to.
Yeah.
Like, we have to become educated.
It's happening.
This is one
whether
small way.
we see it or not.
This is one case.
Yeah.
that we're learning about right now.
Yes.
This happens all the time.
All the time.
Yeah. So I really encourage you, if you haven't seen When They See Us, definitely, it's accessible. It's on Netflix. Definitely see us.
Definitely.
See it.
Yep.
Oh, and I'm sorry. One more thing.
Mm-hmm.
The actor who played Corey,
Oh,
he needs to win some awards.
yes, he does. Yes.
All the acting was amazing.
Okay, and
All of
also
it.
after you watch the documentary too, you're going to be even more impressed with that
Really?
actor, because he was perfect.
Really?
Yes.
Perfect. I like cried watching him a few times.
Yeah.
Just from his acting.
Oh,
I mean, it was just
I know.
so good. And he played him as a young child and then as an adult.
Yes.
He played both.
Yes. Amazing.
And he
And
just
also,
was so amazing.
It was the most heartbreaking for me to watch his story play out, because he wasn't even near Central. He wasn't even near Central Park that night. He actually just went into the police station with his friend.
Right.
Who was
to sit with his friend.
friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they needed one more kid, and he just happened to be there, like in the waiting room.
He was in the waiting room.
And he was the oldest. He was 16.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was with adults.
With adults.
Adult
and
prison.
in prison the longest.
Yeah. That acting was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That kid needs, I don't know, is that Emmys? He needs an Emmy. Whatever it is.
Whatever it is. Give him to that kid.
Yes.
All right. We are going to play a conversation that we had a while back that we just loved having and felt like we needed a reminder to hear this again. It is such a great topic. It's about having our kids really evaluate themselves a lot. And it's such a powerful tool because we do this our whole lives. We want to get better at this ourselves, and we want to teach this to our kids for a much more full life and successful life. So the power of self-evaluation. This topic is, this conversation was so wonderful. I hope you enjoy it.
And we'll be back at the end with brand new LTWs. All right, so today we are talking about empowering our kids to self-evaluate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that, you mentioned to me that you think we both do.
Mm-hmm.
You think I do it.
Yes.
And I didn't even really notice that it was something that I do consciously. But now that you've pointed it out to me, I see that it is something I really value.
It is. Oh, yes. I see it in you for sure. And I see you doing it with your kids all the time.
Yeah. Well, and you too.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
So we thought we should talk about it.
Yep, for sure. I think it's so important. I mean, it's a good thing to start the school year thinking about this, because even before school starts, we can do this. I like to talk to each of my kids individually before we really start school and ask them what they're interested in doing this year. What do you want to work hard on?
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to work hard on? Because, that tells you a lot. And I think that's a lot of self-evaluation right there.
For sure.
And so that's what I think got me started thinking about this. And then I thought, there's so many ways we can do this throughout the school year too.
Right.
So,
yeah. So let's start with the why. Why do we think it's important to empower our kids to self-evaluate?
Yeah, right. I know. So it is important. And I think we very subconsciously know it's important and we probably even know why it's important, but to speak it out loud and to say these things, I think it makes us more conscious about actually doing it. So I think, this is a very general reason. We could get into the specifics of it, but if we want our kids to like grow up and fully own who they are as a person, we need to give them the opportunities to practice that now. And that doesn't mean give them, all the freedom and responsibilities of an adult, but we need to kind of do that scaffolding for them throughout their childhood. So, when they're young, they can do self-evaluation in very small ways. And as they grow older, they can do it more and more in depth. And that way, when they become adults, they are fully functioning self-evaluators, and they are ready to make lots of decisions and kind of even speak up for themselves. And there's lots of things they can do as an adult.
Right. Because I think what we don't want to do is never talk about it and never give them opportunities to practice. And then when they get to be an adult and they're on their own, that would be the first time they've ever done that. I so feel like that was maybe me. Like, I don't know. I feel like I'm a late self-evaluator. I feel like I didn't really start thinking about why I tick or what I'm good at or what I'm not so good at until, I don't know, my 20s.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I did when I was younger and I don't remember it, but
I think that makes so much sense. So I think that's so normal.
Yeah.
I mean, because even in a regular high school setting, when there's lots of opportunities to give teenagers room to self-evaluate or time to self-evaluate. And I think they maybe do a little bit, but I think they could do so much more, because I just think about when I was in high school, there were lots of required classes, and, I could choose some things. Yeah. I could choose music or no music classes, like band or no band, or
you could home ec or shop.
Home ec or shop, so, but that's like really, I would say, pretty obvious choices. Yeah. But like what, there are so many other things, like, well, when you're doing math, how do you like to do math? Do you like to sit at a desk, or do you like to work with someone? Is that how you're finding it more helpful, or is there a certain resource that helps you get to how things work out? I mean, there's just so many detailed things that I think if you're not talking about those things, then kids aren't maybe going to even realize that there are choices there.
Right. And I think once you talk about it, then they start to notice that in themselves. And they're not even probably going to notice unless it's brought to their attention.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. How about, are there any other good reasons? Like, can you think of?
Well, I think it's really important for kids and adults, everybody, to know your strengths, to know what you're good at. Yeah. And this is tough. I mean, I think this is tough. It's tough for me to know what I'm good at and to name that and to be confident in that. So I think the more we can give that language to our kids,
right,
and trying to help them discover that for themselves, I think the better.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and what a gift you're giving your kids.
Yeah.
And a unique gift too, really.
Yeah.
Because I don't think this is, in the mainstream, totally valued.
Right.
I mean, I think to some extent, like I said, but it's just if this is one of your main goals, I think as a parent or homeschooler, it's you're giving them such a gift. And then on the flip side, knowing your limits too. The opposite of strengths maybe, or I don't know if it's the opposite of strengths, but to know your limits, to say, well, like, if you can imagine a teenager feeling empowered to say, you know what, I'm not really into going into a car with like 6 other people and, with loud music. I don't feel comfortable with that.
Right.
Or, I'm not comfortable going to this party or something like that.
I need a break now. Like, I've had all this stimulation, whether it be a bunch of people or whatever. I need to give myself a break now.
Right. I was thinking of my oldest daughter, who's very good at this. She will often very diplomatically, tell me, Mom, you're doing such a good job as a homeschool parent. And I think we work so hard, but this this isn't working for me. And then
That's
she'll
so
give me a
awesome.
hug. I know, it's so nice.
That is
but
so awesome.
how can I not, how can I say no to that? I
You
mean,
can't.
no.
She already knows the sandwich technique. And she says it in a way that's not like, I mean, very diplomatically. That is so great.
Right. So I'm very thankful that she can do that. And I hope she feels comfortable doing that, her whole life. But the more she practices that now, the more she will feel comfortable doing that later in life, I hope.
Right. I think this is also good because it gives kids self-confidence.
Yes.
And, I think that is something that we talk a lot about. It's kind of like a buzzword phrase.
Yep.
Self-confidence or self-esteem or whatever. And, we're always trying to figure out like how to help kids with that.
Yep.
And I think this is a way you can do that because when you build up who they really are, build that up into them so that they know who they really are. Like we talked about what we're good at, where their limits are. I think that gives them the confidence moving forward to ask for those things or to
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's them giving themselves self-confidence, kind of like, it's not like we're pouring.
Yeah, good point.
Filling them up. We're not doing it. We're like giving them the ability to do it themselves.
Right.
So good. I also think it helps kids go, it gives them direction. And which is great when you're 8 or 10, but it's also going to be really, really helpful when you're 18 or 20 or 22 or 40.
For sure.
To be able to self-evaluate and say, okay, this, I need to choose a path here, and which one is going to work best for me.
Right. Oh, I would have loved this so hard.
I know. No kidding.
I know. I think, and I think also, that doesn't have to be a permanent thing for them, but just knowing like, this is what I'm good at or interested in or where I shine now. And so I'm going to use that information moving forward, and it may change. My interests and things that I'm into, experiences might change me. And so just knowing that, like I said before, that language and that ability to, figure that out for themselves, I think will be so helpful for them.
Oh my gosh. I know. And also, I think it's good for kids to know when to ask for help. And if they're self-evaluating and they're like, you know what, this is challenging to me right now, and I don't really understand this. And they can do that, and they know when to ask for help.
Right.
This is one I never learned as a child.
Gosh,
Probably not even as an adult. It's hard for me.
Yeah.
But I remember in college every professor told me, there's a writing center. Just people are sitting there waiting to help you.
Yeah.
Or they'd say math tutors right here. Just go talk to one of them or whatever. I never did because I thought that was for people who were struggling, not doing well, and
it was a sign of weakness.
It was a sign of weakness or something, and I just thought, no, I can't. That's not for me.
Yeah.
But I think it's very powerful to ask for help.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's another sign of self-confidence. Like when you have confidence in yourself, know what you're good at, know what you need help with, then asking for help is not a big deal.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So good.
Okay. So we thought we would talk about some things that we do and some things that we don't do when we are teaching our kids to self-evaluate, when we're empowering them to self-evaluate.
Yeah.
So, Maren, what are some things that you do?
Well, like I said at the beginning of this talk, I like to talk to my kids one-on-one. Before the school year, we talk one-on-one and talk about, what our plans, and then intermittently throughout the year, we just, I like to make one-on-one connections. I have 4 kids. And so even when we're having a family discussion, that's great in so many ways, because I think it's good for everybody to hear each other and where they're coming from too and their process. But I think it's also so important for us to just be able to sit one-on-one so that a child feels comfortable enough to, share whatever it is. And
Yep.
the more we do that, the easier it is for that child to talk about what's going on.
Yeah. Right. So in those one-on-one conversations, you're just talking.
Yeah. We're just talking, and I'm just asking pretty open-ended questions like, how do you think, writing is going, or, whatever
okay.
it is, whatever.
Yep.
Or what do you think, how do you feel about homeschool right now? How's everything going?
Yeah. Yeah. That is so important. I like what you said about the difference between speaking one-on-one and in a group. I think I'm really good at the group talk, the group discussions. We have a lot of those. I'm not so good at the one-on-one.
Yeah.
I think they're both important. I think they're both super important. When we do the group discussions, that's when my kids are able to assert themselves, in a group.
Yeah. They feel safer. Yeah.
Yeah. They're able to assert. Yep. Assert what they're thinking and saying. It gives them practice to, I don't know, like, I don't want to say compare, but bounce like what they're thinking off of what somebody else is thinking.
Yep.
So I think that's really, really good too. I need to get better at the one-on-one. I do that sometimes, but not as much. So,
well, also I think just any kind of connection is so important. One-on-one connection. I mean, I think even just like a hug or a kiss, or
Oh yeah.
This year I'm really gonna try and do more one-on-one reading with my kids, because they love it. They eat it up when it's just me and one other person reading, and there's no talk about self-evaluation, but there is that connection, and the safety is just growing there between us.
For sure.
Yep. How about you, Angela?
Another thing that I try to do is to take them seriously. Yes. In whatever they're saying or whatever they're sharing, and try to validate that, which we talked a lot about in our book talk about how to talk so kids will listen.
Yes.
So there were lots of good strategies for that in that book. But I think sometimes when my kids say something about themselves, like, well, I'm not good at this or something, I think the tendency might be to say, oh, yeah, you are, or yeah, remember you did this, or something like that, to take their attention away from that thing that they're not very good at. But I think just even like nodding your head and saying, oh, yep, or I see that you feel that way, or I understand why you might feel that way, or something like that, just validating their feelings, I think is so important and so often overlooked with parents.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is so true. And I think when I try to correct my kids in those ways, it's me trying to impart who I am onto them in some way. And and they are their own person, and I need to discover who that person is. And
for sure.
Yeah. It's so tough though. It's so hard to do that, I think, as a parent.
It's hard.
To let go of that control.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times because they're kids, I think kids are taken less seriously than adults,
Yeah.
Absolutely. In general with adults. And so like whenever we're in a conversation where my kids are also present, I really try to take what they're saying seriously. Even if it
because we want them to expect to be taken seriously by other people.
Yeah.
And then if they're not, then that's not going to feel good to them. Right. And I think that's good. It's good that they have that inside of them.
For sure.
Oh, yeah. That is so good. And then I think something that goes along with that, Angela, is take them seriously, and then let them just process things. Yeah. We don't have to have answers for them. Right. We don't have to wrap it up tight, nicely in a bow. Exactly. It doesn't have to be pretty necessarily, because we most of the time spend our lives in a process. And, we have to be comfortable in a process. It's good to be in a process.
For sure.
Good. Yeah.
You are so good. You've taught me this a lot, because you say this a lot. You say it's a process.
Yes.
Like we don't have to, that's what we're doing like on this podcast, or as homeschool parents, or as like being married, or whatever it is. It's a process. It's not like, oh, and now I figured it out.
Right.
Because I did these 3 steps.
Or can we just figure this out? Like, that's what I always want to do. Can we just get to that next level and
Yeah.
just be there for a while? And because
Right.
it feels more comfortable for sure.
It does. It
Mhm.
does. So it's hard to say, gosh, that's hard, and I don't know how to answer that yet. And it's too bad that we're stuck in this right now. But
I also think it's good for our kids to see us in a process. I used to think my parents were at a level, like
that
always.
you just had to achieve someday.
Yes, I
Yeah.
just always thought they were at some level. They were done processing everything. They were
Yeah.
they were done. Like had arrived. And the older I get, the more I realize, no, that's not actually
Yeah.
true at all.
No.
I'm never actually going to get to a level.
It's a little disappointing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it also is, I do feel empowering too, because
Yeah.
I feel like, they're, like we're all in the same boat. There's not people who have arrived and I am never going to attain that.
No.
That's not actually the case.
Right. Right. And I think that is common for kids to think that. I mean, they think of adults as like, you're an adult, you have this figured out. And so you're right. It is real helpful for them to see us struggling or figuring something out or,
right.
Learning to deal with something that's hard.
Right. Yep. So true.
Yeah.
I also, on the flip side of that, I love listening to people who are, experts at something, and they will give us a blip of, a little piece of knowledge that they know, and you just know it's like the tip of the iceberg. Just the way they say it, you're like, holy cow, you know so much. And that's inspiring to me too. So I mean, I also think it's good for kids to be exposed to people who, have arrived at at something. They've done some accomplishment and they've done something amazing, and that is something they can aspire to, but it's not out of reach either. It's not out of reach.
And it doesn't mean that person has arrived in all areas.
Right, exactly. I used to think that.
Yeah. They maybe just have this little bit of wisdom in this one area.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I also think it's important to ask kids their opinions about things. Again, this one is hard for me. I mean, I do it, but I also sometimes think, well, I mean, I'm going to ask your opinion, but I really just know mine, or I already know what I'm going to do. This is for show here. And I gotta stop that, because their opinions are good and valid just as much as mine.
Yes. Yeah.
Just as much as mine. And so and I think that gives them a sense of empowerment. Like, oh, my parents or these adults in my life value what I think.
Yeah. And there are sometimes, I mean, and this can't be all the time, especially if you have multiple children, but sometimes whatever their opinion is, you can just go with it. Maybe sometimes. I mean, well, what should we have for dinner? You want spaghetti again? Okay. Well, that was, you get to decide tonight. Yeah. Tonight is your choice. So it's good to have I mean, the other thing is kids like to feel safe in their parents' opinions too. So, on movie night, a lot of times, Sean and I differ so differently on this. Like, he would rather be, you know what? I've already made a decision on what movie we're watching, and this is it. And I can go the other way, where I'm like, I would like everybody's opinion, and let's talk about it all for an hour, and we still can't decide. What should we do? And I think sometimes I think it's good for kids to just know, okay, I get to express my opinion, and then it's good for a parent to just decide sometimes.
My parents have this covered.
Yes, my parents have got this covered. And we don't have to sit here in turmoil for 2 hours trying to figure this out. So
right. That family movie night is sure a way to process a lot of this. A lot of the things we're talking about.
That could be a study on this subject.
Okay, so let's talk about some things that we don't do.
Ooh, I love talking about things I don't do.
Yeah. Okay, so
So Angela, would you want to just tell us one thing you don't do?
Okay, so I don't force a subject / schedule or curriculum.
Wow, that's kind of I mean, I think that to a lot of homeschoolers could be just like shut the front door. You do not force a subject. Like you don't have.
Well, I know. As I said it, I was thinking, do I
backpedal a little there?
Do I not force anything?
Yeah.
Okay, so force. Yeah, no, I don't force anything.
Yeah.
I do not force anything.
Yep.
No, I can say that confidently.
Good.
There are a few things I encourage or I leave space for, or I just leave space for it to grow. Like you talk about preparing the environment.
Yeah.
There are a few things I prepare the environment well for so that they'll do it.
Very good.
But I don't think I force anything, really. Yeah. So, and that's something I have just learned. I mean, I've been homeschooling now. I think this is our 7th year. I should really count. I can't remember. But I've been homeschooling a long time. And I did used to force stuff. So this is like you said, a process for me.
Yeah.
And I think
all of us
finally arrived at not forcing things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
How about you? Are you?
I don't know if I've arrived at that spot yet.
Really? Gosh.
No, I want to be a person who does not force. I think in most contexts I don't. Like if there's crying and screaming or bad moods, no, I'm not forcing it then. Yeah. But I also say, you don't get to do something fun if you don't finish this thing. I mean, or sometimes it's like this has to happen. So, but also it's good, I think there are times when maybe that's okay, but I think it's just so tiny.
I think what I'm doing, what I mean by that is I have their buy-in before we start.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's upper level thinking here, Angela. That's amazing.
Okay.
That's so great that you do that.
Well,
and I want to do that. I want that.
I do what you do. Where I talk to my kids about what they want to do this year, what they're excited about, what they want to learn. I do that. And then I say, here's what I'm thinking for this year. I'm thinking these are the things we're going to focus on.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah.
And I get their buy-in that way.
Yeah,
so that then there are times maybe when I say, you can do this fun thing, like you can do screens after you're done with this.
Right. I think this is so good because I think it would change the conversation about, how and when we decide to teach certain subjects to kids or whatever. Because, I think of my kids with reading.
Yeah.
Nobody was ready to read when all the other public school kids were learning to read.
For sure. Yeah.
And I think if I would have forced reading at that time to my kids, it would have been a huge mistake. And I don't think anybody would have loved reading. And so, so I think, anyway, so not forcing a subject. It's very good. And I think this is what you've done a lot too, Angela. Like we all have things that are super important to us that we want our kids to learn, like spelling, things like that. But I have seen you do this. Like, you're like, you know what? Instead of doing 5 days a week, an hour every day, we're going to cut it down to like 1 or 2 days a week for 15 minutes. And that's going to be better.
Yeah.
Because my kids are telling me that other way isn't working.
Yeah. I do cut things down. You've done that too.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But when I see you do it, then I'm like, oh yeah, see, it's okay. Angela's doing it.
That's what I think about you too.
That's why we need each other. That's why we all need each other, you guys. And we need to, just be open about what we're doing, because it's going to free someone else up to make that decision too.
For sure. Okay, Maren, what else do you not do?
Okay, so one thing I try not to do is shame my kids into if something's not working for them. I may have spent a ton of money on a curriculum or something, and I put all my eggs in this basket for and it might not work.
Yeah.
That's not my kids' fault. Yeah. That's not their fault. And to make them feel bad about it not working for them is very counterproductive. So
Yeah.
so if they're telling me, listen, Mom, I can't, this isn't working for me, or I'm having a hard time with this, or they're saying it in a much, harder way, harsher way.
Right. Yeah.
It's all the same message though. Like, this isn't working.
Right.
It's okay. It's okay if it's not working.
For sure. That's great. And that's another way that you're taking them seriously in what they're saying.
Yes. So true.
You're honoring what their feelings about a certain way that you want to do things. You're honoring, like, this is the way that's going to work for me, or this is the good thing for me. And you're saying, okay, even though that's not my, even though that's not my first choice, or not the plan, or whatever, not what I had in mind, or not what I spent money on, I'm going to honor what you're saying.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good.
How about you, Angela? Anything else you don't do?
I don't do any grades.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do grades?
I don't.
Don't do grades.
No.
And I think the reason is, and when I say grades, I mean like evaluating as being like good or bad, or right or wrong, some bit of work that they're doing.
Right.
Okay, so I don't do that because, like you were saying before, this is all a process. We're all in a process of learning. And so I think wherever they are at that moment is great.
Yeah.
Like, it's good. It's where they're supposed to be.
It's where they're supposed to be. And I think that's so hard for us to see that sometimes. Yeah.
And so, like, me evaluating that as being not good enough or good enough is is not helpful.
They're coming to you with, like, this is who I am. This is who I am, and this is where I'm at. And to say, well, that's good or bad.
Yeah.
That's
I know.
so tough. Even if it, like, on the surface it looks like you just weren't trying, or you're trying to mess this up. Well, guess what? That's who they are. They're trying to tell you this isn't working.
They're communicating something to you.
Yeah,
for sure. All right, so then we just thought we'd give some examples. I know we've talked about a few examples here.
We have,
already.
Yeah,
we've kind of given lots of examples. But do you have any more examples, Maren?
Well,
of how this works?
Yeah, I think like audiobooks is a good one because, my kids have told me in not so direct ways that eye reading is really hard for them.
Yeah,
it has been. I have a child with dyslexia and ADHD, and I think probably more than one. But only one child has been evaluated. But I think that's a real issue. And audiobooks are, when my kids listen to audiobooks, I mean, a whole new world opens up for them. And I see that, and they've let me know that that's really it's a pleasure to learn when they're listening to audiobooks. So yeah,
that is
that's
good.
one thing.
Yeah, and I've learned that from you too, I will say, because I think you very early jumped on that train of this being like being just as good as eye reading.
Right, yeah.
And kind of shutting down any like, oh, but it's not as good. Like, oh, but we still need to learn this and do this.
Yeah.
Do the eye reading lots.
Yeah.
And so that has really helped me. That's really opened my eyes up too.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like it's shaming. It's shameful to say, well, my way of reading or the way that that it's always been done is the right way. Yes. And then your like adaptive way is not.
It's just like a subpar way of listening. And that doesn't feel good. Now, I have talked to my kids, especially as they're getting older now. Like this summer we had some goals for eye reading, and my kids, really pushed back on that. They're like, but audiobooks you've told us audiobooks are so good. And, and I just said, you are right. Audiobooks are so good, and you can keep doing audiobooks for the rest of your life. But eye reading is, it's like flexing a muscle, and if you don't do it very often, it's just not going to get bigger. So I just want you to work on that too. I mean, I want you to work on it. It's just one thing I want you to work on. It's not like this central focus thing where it's like the best thing, and audiobooks are just less important.
Right. Well, because in life, they're going to have to read with their eyes.
Yes, exactly.
Not everything comes in an audio format.
Exactly.
So it is a skill they are going to have.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so
all
good.
right. Yeah. So, Angela, any other good examples? of ways. Yeah, that
Okay.
And I think these examples basically are like the results of our kids self-evaluating,
Yeah.
right? And this is what we've done.
Okay, another thing that I've done is like documentaries.
Yes.
And not just, okay, so here's the difference. Not just adding that on as like, for example, after you've done the history curriculum, then you add on a documentary
Yeah,
just
yeah.
kind of for fun. It's like, no, the documentary can actually count as what you're doing for history
Right, right.
or a part of it.
Yeah, and it's not like after you've done your work for the day at 3 p.m., then you can watch a documentary. No.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, it's not the fun thing that happens after.
Right, right.
Yeah, and so I think because TV is relatively new, screens are kind of a big, conversation right now.
Definitely.
People are afraid of their kids having more screen time, which I understand.
Mhm.
I think because of all that, we shy away from, we would shy away from a documentary or a TV show or a movie
yeah. I was just
as
going to
being
say
an
some kind of
option.
movie too.
Yeah,
Can be a great learning experience.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try not to shy away from that because I think it's just another way of taking the information in. And if we can get as many of those ways as possible, that is how we're going to grab certain parts of our kids' learning styles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So good. And then some other things that we just have already talked about in this episode, but I'll just reiterate them. Taking breaks is so important to listen to your kid. It's so important to listen to your kids. And realize when it's time to take a break.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's after 5 minutes.
Sometimes it's after 5 minutes.
Yeah. Or sometimes the whole morning has to be a break. I mean, really, it just does.
And sometimes, they don't know that yet. And so I think it's giving them that language. Like you said, this is a scaffolding kind of process. Like we're helping them to figure it out. So when they're younger, it's, it seems like you need a break now.
Yeah.
And then as they get older, hopefully they'll be like, hey, I need a break right now.
Yep. And not in a negative way. Like, oh my goodness, you cannot sit still. You need to take a break. It's like, I see you. It looks like you might need a break. Should we take some time? Yeah.
Or you might need something to eat. Or you might need to go like get some energy out or something. Yeah.
So good. And then just having kids be part of the curriculum decisions like you talked about a lot too. I think that's great.
Yeah.
So helpful.
So important.
Yep.
This was a great conversation, Maren.
It was.
This is so interesting because when you brought this topic up to me, initially I felt like, I don't have anything to say about that.
You think that a lot.
I do think that a lot. And now that we've talked about it, I was like, and actually I could say a lot more.
Yeah. This could be a 2-episode.
Let's have a part 2. Yeah. So that was great. Yeah. I love that.
So good. All right, let's move on to loving this week.
Yes. Maren, what are you loving this week?
All right, I am loving a cell phone case, and it's a wallet cell phone case. It's called Silk Wallet Slayer. The Wallet Slayer. I love the name even. But I got it on Amazon. It is my go-to wallet cell phone case.
Yes.
Okay, so number 1, I cannot bring purses or wallets anywhere because I will forget them or lose them. Somehow I don't lose my phone ever. So I always need my cards with me. Cards or cash or whatever I'm bringing, it needs to be connected to my phone. And I have to say, I've tried all the wallet cases. This is the one I keep coming back to. I have used it for probably 2 or 3 different phones. And, I love variety. So every time I get a new phone, I try a new case, and it's never as good. This is the best wallet case. It holds, it says it holds like maybe 2 or 3 cards. It really holds 4. Always. I need 4 cards, and it always holds them. It has like, I don't know, it's like a little ledge or something inside the wallet case. So I don't know what it is, but it holds my cards in there. And
they don't slip out.
They do not slip out ever. And it covers the cards very well, so you can't really see them. And it's still pretty slim for a wallet case, which I want. I'm always wanting a slimmer case. So this is the best wallet case out there by
Yes.
far. And it never, like, my phone has never cracked. The screen has never cracked. It's just very safe. So
Yes, you
love
turned me on to this probably 3 phones ago.
yeah.
And I am the same. I am now ordering them.
Yes.
I would agree wholeheartedly. It is, if you can't picture, wallet cases can mean lots of different things. It is one single thing. It doesn't flap over the top of your phone.
No, it's not like a folio. It's not a folio.
Is that what that's called?
I don't know, but I think that's what it's called. It's just,
It looks like a phone case, just a
Yes,
plain old phone case, but it has
exactly.
a little slots in the back for your cards.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I have too stopped carrying a purse, not because I'll lose it, but because I just don't want something else to carry.
I know.
I don't need a purse.
Nobody
don't
needs
want a
that.
purse, so I just carry my phone.
Yes, and now this in the latest version, and I have to say, I think this might be only for iPhones. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if it's for Samsung, but I know, or for any other kind of phones. But I use it for an iPhone, and for the latest version, they also have like you can put a design on the back, which is really awesome. So,
did you do that?
Yeah, I got like limes.
Did you? Okay,
limes and leaves.
Was that an option, or did you tell them what
Yes.
you wanted?
No, it was an option.
Okay,
Yes.
cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just looking. I see they have them for Galaxies.
Nice.
I see one for Galaxy. I don't know. I'm not going to scroll through, but yes, it's not just iPhones.
Okay, good. That's awesome.
All right.
Angela, what are you loving this week?
Yes, I am loving. I know we have talked about Lusa Organics before a long time ago.
It's been a long time.
I know we need to bring them up again
We do.
because it is summer and I am loving their bug spray.
Mm.
Their bug spray is called Hey You Shoo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
SHOO.
Yes.
Yes. And it is a blend of essential oils.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am using it this summer. I love Lusa Organics products altogether. They make great soaps. They make great balms and lotions and
Totally.
like lots of stuff that we use. And they're kind of local to us because we're in Minnesota and they're right over the border in Wisconsin. And so I feel like I'm using a local product and you're supporting a small family business, which I love.
Who also homeschools.
Love them so. Yes, they homeschool too.
Yeah.
So I love Lusa Organics. But this summer I am using their bug spray again. This is probably my 3rd summer.
Awesome.
So just wanted to let you know. This bug spray, it doesn't have DEET, obviously, but so, it's not going to last all day. So I think the trick to using something without DEET that has essential oils is you need to apply more often. So that would be my, advice. If
but
you're gonna use
besides
this.
that, it's as effective, probably.
It's as effective.
Yep.
You just need to be applying more often.
Yep.
And I don't feel bad spraying lots of it because it doesn't smell bad. And I know it's not harmful. So I love using it.
That's so great. I mean, yeah, I love every product I've ever gotten from Lusa.
Yes.
Yeah. They're
definitely.
just quality company. For sure.
For sure. So I wanted you guys to know about mine.
Awesome.
It's not an Amazon product. So that's okay.
Mm-hmm. It's okay.
It's okay. Yep. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening. We're glad that you're here. If you would like to follow us, we are on Facebook and Instagram at Homeschool Unrefined. We have a closed Facebook group called Unrefined Homeschoolers. We'd love to have you join. We have a website where you can find links and show notes for each episode, and that is homeschoolunrefined.com. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening.
Homeschool Unrefined is created and produced by Maren Gorse and Angela Sizer. Ethan Miller is our editor, and Amanda Ginn is our VP of all the important things.